folks. Welcome to Let's Just Go. This is Kevin and Casey's Modern Missionary Podcast, where we talk family, mission, food, and barbecue, God and theology, community building, and just the whole spirit of going for it in life.
Today's topic is rolling into Austin.
This is going to be a fun one.
This is going to be
a funny one.
Yeah, this is a good story.
But first of all, we should do some updates on our podcasting experience.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. So number one, I think we should do a call to action. We're going to do a call to action. We're going to put up a poll that you're going to be able to identify on the Spotify account, at least. Is that right? Or does it also show up on the other platforms? It'll show up on that one at least.
Yes.
Look for it. And we haven't figured out how to do it, but by the time we drop this thing, it'll be on there.
It will be there.
So when you're listening to it, it's on there. But we've had about 31 consistent visitors to listen to all the podcasts so far. So people know a little bit about the content that we started off. We wanted to know what topics, especially the ones that we mentioned at the very beginning in the intro, would you be more interested or already are more interested in hearing about?
Right. And I think that if you've listened to the other podcasts, if there's any questions or
missed stories,
more information that you want on something, that'd be really cool too as well.
Just to recap, we said we're talking about family, mission, food and barbecue, God and theology ideas, community building. So we'll put that up somehow on the poll.
Right. I think one of the things is that we want to build communication with our audience, to have engagement with them. So we would love to have questions or answer anything.
And that goes to a next thought for me on podcast updates. My best news that I got from someone this last week was, Kevin, I've been down, and listening to this has really been an encouragement to me. That's kind of cool.
That is awesome. Yep. And I think ultimately that's what we want our stories to be, our encouragement, give people the courage and bravery maybe to step out and go for it, whether it be something huge or something that you've just been wrestling with, don't know if you want to take the steps to do it, or feel held back or whatever. I think that's the cool thing about this podcast, is we just wanted to encourage you that when you go for it, it makes your life more full, which is what our podcast is about today. I feel like
rolling into Austin.
Yes. And yes, yeah.
Even as you're saying that, though, I am starting to think of some new podcast stories that we can share. So we started writing down a bunch of list of things. And there are some situations where we encouraged people in years past to do something hard, and they did things that we never could do.
Right.
They were harder than the things that we've ever done. And so it's not like, here, have my courage. It's not that. It's they have it in themselves. There are people stronger, bigger, better, more courageous, ready to step out in greater ways than we ever could.
Everybody's
I ever could.
Got their own thing. Everyone.
I just remember it's weird that people have come at times for encouragement from us, but they were the ones that they went and they became champions. And you're like, I would never be able to do what you did.
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess, just when you have the strength to encourage someone else, use it.
Yeah.
Because it might trigger what they already got. Even more than yours.
That's a good point. I feel like we've given ourselves a good 2 weeks, maybe 3, to kind of get this routine down that we've developed. And I think that we're going to probably end up stepping up our game, but it's kind of nice to, have the things that we really wanted, like sound and music. Those are 2 big things. Our intro.
Bring that up a notch.
Yeah. Our intro. And all of that. I think that writing on that right now before we up our game a little bit has been a good new starting point.
And Bear Script, which was mentioned last time, is up and running. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Rolling into it. This is rolling into Austin.
Which we did literally.
On a rainy day in a U-Haul, in a truck, in a Mazda 626 tagging behind.
And like, what was that, 1997?
I
Yep,
believe.
1997. Right. We were just wee babes.
And I think the story was the inspired thing for us because recently we did an episode on Mexican basketball, the starting of our family, which occurred when we were in Austin. And we had mentioned coming out of the military thinking we were going to be there for a while. Mm-hmm. And then we also did an episode on what we did with 9/11. And so again, that coming out of the military and into life in Texas was a story surrounding it. And so we were thinking, well, let's talk about how, the moment we actually did leave the military. We were at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then moved to Austin. So that's what this is about.
This is that story.
And just previewing the aspects of it, I'm thinking this is filled with, we don't know what we're doing.
We're supposed to be adults, but we don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
We rolled into Austin like the way that we started this podcast.
Yeah. Sometimes we do that. But maybe we want to give a little bit more background because there is the part where we started out in Fort Benning, Georgia, and then made our way to Austin. So
right.
How did we come up with that?
So we were at Fort Benning, and I was finishing up the infantry officer basic course. And I just completed it, and I, all of a sudden, through some other training before we got shipped out to Schofield Barracks, it was actually part of airborne school, and there was incident with jumping out of a tower. And my neck paralyzed me, and I ended up actually in the hospital, and they did x-rays on me, and the doctor comes in and he shows me this, and he sort of presented it to me in a way that he was going to let me see it for myself. Mm-hmm. And he showed me the x-rays of my cervical vertebrae, number C7, and he says, do you see a problem with that? And I had a crack, a major crack.
A very
it's
visible crack.
Separation. I could identify myself. And I don't remember if it was right then and there, but someone, said, you can't be in the military, you at least cannot be in combat arms with this thing. You're going to be separated from the military. Mm-hmm. So that started the ball rolling of getting a medical discharge from the military. And all of a sudden, we were stuck with this big question mark of what we're going to do in our lives. And I know you wrote down on your list, what now?
Right.
I wrote that exact same thing down as what now? With our life and everything.
What do we do now? Because that's what I remember thinking. Oh my gosh, because that wasn't even in my mind at all, that we would not
no plan B.
Go into the military, not be career military. Mm-hmm. Just like in my mind, like my family, the way I grew up, that's how we were going to raise our kids and all that. And that came to a screeching halt. And it was like, oh my gosh, what do we do now?
Right. And it's not just an exasperated, what do we do now? It's an actual question. What?
It was
what
actually,
are we going?
Yes.
I can't do anything.
With a little bit of desperation in it because, we weren't going to stay there. So we knew whatever it involved, we were going to be going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think that in a way, at first it was shocking, and then the idea settled in me, and we talked about this. We could go anywhere because we didn't have any real attachment to any place because...
Right. I think for me, what I was concerned about is I didn't feel like I knew how to do anything. And I was actually surveying my life and my skills, my abilities of things. And I was thinking, there's nothing that I know how to do. I had participated in sports and athletics all my life, and I had done grunt work on farms, tobacco farm, dairy farm, hauling hay. I was strong, but I couldn't think of what I had grown up learning how to do.
Yeah.
And so I was very concerned with, what am I going to do?
Yeah. I think we knew whatever it was, it would probably involve working really hard. But yeah, we had really no idea, no clue what it was going to be. So I think I remember I started writing. So back in the old days, you didn't go to websites. You actually wrote to places, Chamber of Commerce, and they would send you catalogs about the location. And there were
The
a few places.
research was different.
I know, it was so different. I think I was trying to remember what places I wrote to, and I think I actually did Charleston, South Carolina. I did Austin, Texas, and there were two more, but for the life of me, I can't remember what they were, but for some reason, the Charleston one stands out to me. But, I mean, we were also looking, I want to say it was more in the West.
Where to go?
Right, but where do we even go?
We're not going to live here in Columbus, Georgia.
Right, and at the time, your parents had moved to Virginia Beach, and we knew that we weren't going to go there. And my parents, I think at that time, my dad was in Germany. He was stationed in Germany.
No sense of
and
home.
so we were like, well, we aren't going to go where our parents are. So what do we do?
Another element to that I remember is I was mad. I was personally mad. And there were some other things that I chalked up as failures in, my life. And some of them were my fault in decisions. And some of them were stuff from the past. And later on, where we're going to move to eventually, in Austin, that's where God would really bring all that stuff to summation and use it to remake me. But I was angry. This was a failure for me. It was something that was out of my control. It wasn't a moral failure. It was a capacity failure. My neck broke. And I was, mad at myself, but also just at existence. And what I was thinking about is I want to move to some place that nobody that we know lives.
Yeah.
And that we know nobody. And I also don't want to work for anybody. I want to work for myself. I want to be self-employed or whatever form that would take.
Yeah.
But I don't want to listen to anything. And so, probably not just mad, there was bitterness with me. And so, when we roll into Austin eventually, that's part of my story.
Yeah.
As I'm rolling into Austin, a bitter man.
When I hear you talk about this, actually, I remember back then, and I feel like I was so inept at helping you through that struggle. Like, I don't even know how much when I think about it. I know that I prayed for you, but I don't even know how much I actually really took on that burden on myself. For me, dealing with things was when they get hard, you go to the next thing. You move to the next place, you whatever. And so I feel like my focus actually became getting to the next thing and knowing what we were doing and heading that direction. And I feel like as we did that, I did not pay attention to your struggle. When I hear you talk about it, it actually makes me a little bit sad because I feel like I could have participated in that and I kind of chose not to. So
I think we ought to have a subtitle to our podcast, and it's called Therapy in the Vault.
Therapy in the Vault. Yes, we should have a big light that says therapy, the therapist is in, or therapy in session, for sure.
Who are you guys giving therapy to? Each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
For us.
Yeah. But like all young we wanted to hear from God when we wanted to know what God's will was, right?
Oh, this is good. Yes.
And so we decided, we came up with this idea, in the Bible it tells you to fast and pray. And we were like, ooh, okay, let's fast for a week, 7 days.
A full week.
A full week.
Hardcore.
Yes. And we would only eat one meal a day, which was rice. And we were going to spend...
Boy, and rice tasted good at the end of the day. Not eat it.
Yeah. And we decided that we were going to spend some time in the morning and some time in the evening dedicated to just praying. But we kind of did it separately because Kevin was still very busy and I
we were going to come together
was still working at the Gap there in Columbus. So at the end of the 7 days, we would come together and we would talk about what God told us. And I remember about Tuesday, I was getting frustrated because how like when you do things and they feel empty, and I didn't think what I was doing was empty, but for some reason I was like I'm getting like even
you
at that
on a
point
spiritual high.
Yes, there was no spiritual high. There was a lot of like begrudging, like trudging, where I was like, okay, why is God not telling me what his will is for this? But anyway. So we ended up, after the 7 days, coming back together.
Okay, so that was a horrible 7 days for me.
Yeah.
I was hungry, and...
we fought a lot.
I was grumpy, and you stunk like rice.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know anyone could stink like rice.
Rice...
It wasn't
after it starts stinking.
It wasn't even sushi rice. It wasn't sticky rice.
No,
it was like the Mahatma
rice.
Uncle Ben's long grain don't stick together rice.
Don't stick together. Mainland
bad.
Rice.
Mainland rice.
Well, right. I think I did so much cussing that week, and I definitely was mean to you. I was picking fights. And I picked a lot of fights back then with other folks.
Yep.
We should cut that out.
I don't know if we should or not.
I'll come back to
That's truth right there.
Okay. Well, it was a bad week.
It was a bad week.
By my standards.
It was discouraging.
It was fasting was not working.
No, it was like self-imposed
God was
discouragement.
not doing his part.
Right.
I was doing my part.
Right.
You probably weren't, but I was.
I know.
But God was doing his part.
No,
he wasn't doing his part either.
I just felt like it was discouragement. Anyway, we come back together and we're sitting there after 7 days and we sit in the living room and I think you're like, so what did God tell you? And I said, I haven't heard anything.
Right, yeah.
And then I asked you the
God
same question.
God was not here this week.
Right. I asked you the same question. You're like, I didn't hear anything.
Nah,
and we're like, what does that mean?
Yeah, fasting don't work.
Right. Well, you know what it meant?
Hmm.
It meant that we had to freaking make a decision, is what that meant.
I think that's all we were left with.
Yep.
We weren't left with, okay, it doesn't exist. It was nothing like that. It was just... fasting doesn't exist.
Or at least we did it wrong. I just thought I did it wrong.
I'll show you, think I'm a formula or something, or things are that easy. Right. Yeah, we were left with having to think.
To think.
And when I think about what the steps are that came next, I'm realizing, boy, that was probably exactly what we needed, is to start thinking. Because there wasn't even enough thought, in the process that followed.
Yeah. Well, right. And I feel like that was exactly God's intention, was that we didn't need to hear from him because we already knew how to make decisions.
To do what we wanted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing that we wanted to go towards.
The answer is where I put it in your wanting.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which is how we got together.
Yes.
I don't chalk it up as great noble drives or anything like that, but I definitely wanted you.
Yeah.
And so God used that against us to put us together.
It made us overlook a lot.
Right.
Desire makes you overlook a lot. But we knew we needed to leave Georgia, so we started making plans to then move to Austin.
My brother visited at some point when we were at Fort Benning, Georgia. I believe that's true. This was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But whether that was on a phone call or it was during that visit, I was talking with him. And he said, why don't you paint houses? Why don't you go start your own business and paint houses?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why didn't I think of that? And there's a reason, and it's because you and I had an experience before we got married of painting houses.
Right. Yeah. We worked on the same crew for a company called College Pro Painters. And this is a different story, but I came and lived with you and your family for a summer.
To see if we could
get along.
And like each other long
right.
term.
Yep. And we worked.
Which we didn't.
No, but we'll talk about
That's
that some other day, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we worked on a painting crew together,
mm-hmm.
and worked all summer so hard. Like, I don't know,
For
like
Ross the
10-hour
boss.
days.
Long hours.
Long hours, dark. We'd come home when, it was summer, but, like 9, get home at 9.
It was a summer
eat lots
job.
of food because we were so hungry.
Right, and it was something to keep us busy while we were, checking out whether we could live around each other.
Yeah, and we made good money doing that, I remember.
We got
For a college
paid
kid.
well
Mm-hmm.
For back then, and lots of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually a big success story. We had Ross the Boss.
Right.
And Ross the Boss was one of a couple of hundred franchise owners of College Pro. I think it was just College Pro.
Mm-hmm.
His franchise produced more revenue, painted more houses than all other couple hundred franchises in the nation. And he had, my recollection, he had 3 crews.
Mm-hmm.
I led one of the crews, and by far we were the producers for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked long, hard. The others that worked underneath us on our crew worked long and hard.
I think, didn't Andrew
hit, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he led one of the
He
crews
worked.
too, and there was like fierce competition between
Well, he
the two
worked for my
crews.
crew at first, I think, and then he was taken and he was given another crew where he led that one, right? So there was like a competition.
Right. But I remember we all pretty much knew each other too. All
Right.
of us who worked for this company.
My brother
Mm-hmm.
was on that crew. Wasn't my sister
I
on
think-
the crew?
For a little bit, I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm. You were until we couldn't work together anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and then you left to go work on Andrew's crew, right?
Yeah, I think I did a couple jobs with his crew.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were successful
Yeah.
at painting houses, and I was very often on high ladders with spray guns, and learned how to cut in windows real well with brushes, and learn things about paint and stuff. And when I had been surveying what I didn't know how to do anything, then my brother just saying that, why don't you go paint houses?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you start your own thing? One of the things I grew up doing as a young kid, as a little kid, is creating lots of clubs.
Yes.
For those that you there's some funny stories in there. Okay, that's another cast.
Kevin's crazy childhood stories.
Right. But then that was stuck in my brain. Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we can do. And I had a worker on my crew, Casey,
Mm-hmm.
and we're living
Yeah,
together.
I could paint too.
Let's go to where nobody knows us and work for nobody except ourselves, and just start from scratch and see, how things go.
Yep. So we separated from the military and packed so we had our car, and then we had a black Ford F-150.
Mm-hmm. I
I
bought a
think-
ladder rack.
Yeah, a
and
ladder
I
rack
installed
for it.
before we left.
Because we found a really good deal on it.
Mm-hmm.
And had a U-Haul. And
To tow the Mazda.
you
along.
towed, yep. Yeah, you towed the Mazda, and I drove
And I did a lot of prep work as far as just crunching numbers beforehand. And so I spent a lot of time writing down numbers. This is what paint would cost. This is what ladders. This is the equipment we would need. We looked at the budget, and we had pretty much nothing to us.
Yeah, we had no money.
And we were paying car payments and truck payments, and we were realizing that when we got there, we had a very limited time to get things rolling.
Right. Yeah, we went with a very short timeline of getting there, getting established, of needing to, get a job and all that kind of stuff so we could survive.
And I remember one money scheme that we had was to do what's called a ditty move with the military. We're separating from the military, so it was a do-it-yourself move. And so we would pay for the U-Haul ourselves instead of having movers.
Right.
And we would load the stuff up. We'd keep our receipts. We'd measure the weight of the U-Haul, and we were given a certain allowance of weight for our move. And then on the other side, we would do the receipts, and we'd mail it in, and the military would reimburse us for our move. So we did this ditty move to get some extra cash so we could make it another month after we got there.
Right. But this was 1997, and nothing was immediate. So we had like time gaps that we had to figure out, from correspondence to sending in receipts, things like...
You couldn't scan a receipt and then emails. We didn't even have cell phones.
No.
We didn't have cell phones,
everything.
right?
No, you had to call numbers that wouldn't be answered, and you had to
Go
wait
to
on
the
hold.
library, photocopy your receipts,
Right.
stuff it in an envelope,
Put them in envelopes.
and mail it to a bureaucracy.
Right. Which took forever.
Weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
I remember making phone calls to them. Have you received this? Well, we don't know if we received it. There's
Right.
a lot of stuff coming in, and there's a process, and you're like, we never know we're going to get
Right.
that money.
Which we needed to survive. But anyway, so the day came for us to load up and start driving. Did we do it all in one leg?
I think so, yes,
Yeah, I
because
think so.
it was the very end of a long drive that
Yeah.
we got there. And what we were heading towards was Austin, and the plan to start a house painting business
Yes.
in Austin. We didn't have a job there. We did not pick out a hotel to stay at. We did not have money to sustain us. We didn't have someone to be a quartering party and to receive us.
Right. We didn't know anyone there.
It was like getting on a ship. I remember thinking a lot about that. I remember for years afterwards recalling or wondering, imagining what it would be like for those early explorers to get in a ship and be like, you know what, we're going to go west. They're like, that's not a real direction. That's like if there's only 4 directions, west is
Right.
one of them. It's like kind of like this.
Right.
And, well, no, we're going to Austin. That is not a plan.
No.
And it looked like that when we got there. We went through, I remember the storm started hitting as we were going through Houston.
Yes. And we hit a lot of rain.
A lot of rain, heavy traffic.
It was stressful. I remember how stressful, because we were in 2 separate vehicles. And I was driving that truck, which didn't have I remember struggling with the condensation on the windows because of the rain, and trying to keep the windows down just enough so that it wouldn't, build, and then using a jacket or something to wipe off the inside of the, I know that was a really cool truck. It was fun to drive it all that way. But yeah, so we were in separate cars. So I remember having several breakdown sessions where I just
by yourself.
Yeah, by myself, listening to the radio, crying.
We're both suffering on our own.
On our
not
own.
knowing about the others.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I'm in this extra wide U-Haul with the trailer behind me, and the weather, and these 2 semis, one on my right, one on my left, going through Houston traffic during rush hour. And they're like squeezing me in. And I'm not even going to pay attention to an exit I'm just trying to stay alive. I just remember that pinch. Remember that pinch, and I was thinking, I don't see anything in my life ahead of me other than the next mile of staying in these safe lines to keep in my lane. I didn't have any picture of our future. I didn't have no kids, this is what work's going to actually be like. This is nothing about what Austin or Texas looked like. That's all I knew. That was all my future was what's the next mile on this road between these two semis rolling through Houston in the middle of the storm.
Yeah. I remember kind of, you have a plan in a way that you're going, and that gets like broken apart. I remember really struggling with planning, being kind of planning shy. I don't know.
What even is it?
Yeah, what even is it? Is it even going to work out? I felt like in those moments, you're right. We had just like what the next step was in front of us. Just put the next step in front of us, put the next step in front of us. I remember even within arriving there and some of the things that we went through, I remember feeling one way in one 30-minute period and completely the opposite in another 30-minute period. I mean, it was like this roller coaster of emotions, but not really planning for those things either. But so we hit rain in Houston, and that pretty much stays that way as we're driving to Austin. And
we did not rehearse this, by the way. I'm just listening to us as we're talking, and it's like you take a turn and say something, and then I take it. But we both remember all of this.
It is so deeply seared in my head.
Turns.
Yeah, this was a significant thing that happened in our life.
The next thing that happened, you were about to say, is like one of the most cherished memories of my entire life.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you do it then.
No.
Because I'm out. Are you talking about rolling into Austin? Yeah, we roll into Austin, and we go off the interstate.
Heavy rain.
It's raining so hard. So I follow Kevin. He gets off the interstate, and we drive down a frontage road and turn into it was a strip mall that had a really big parking lot. And
big empty parking lot.
Yeah.
Pouring rain.
Yeah. And it's gloomy and it's gray, and the street lights are coming on because it's just about to get dark. And I remember shutting the truck off and being like, oh my gosh.
What have we done?
What have we done? It was so ugly.
I remember in that moment going, oh, we didn't plan what to do next.
Right. We had no plan of staying anywhere.
Like, why did we choose this parking lot? I mean, it was like Austin.
Yeah.
That's not.
We're here.
That's not very precise.
No, it's not.
At some point, we drive into the Austin city limit, and that was the end of the arrival plan.
Right. Well, you did, and you tease me about this all the time. But I remember talking about where we were going to stay, and you were like, "Should you want to just sleep in the vehicles?" And I remember I broke down crying.
There's too many stories like this. There's too many places where we went, and you say that I said, "Do you want to sleep in the vehicle?"
You did, though. This was your thing.
I think you blended that one or two with
you
all
were
of
so
the arrival
used
stories.
to me doing that
You're right.
you just thought that I was going to go along with it. And I think normally I would have, but I was so frazzled and stressed from that drive, and it was so ugly. And we were in it didn't feel like a safe part of town in a strip mall parking lot. I remember sitting there. I get out of the truck and I go in to the car with you, and it's like drizzling, and we have the windows down, and we're sitting there talking about the next thing, and I have just kind of broken down crying because I want to stay in a hotel and have a shower and all that. And There is this pickup truck. It is jacked up and it has the Dixie flag in the back. And it drives by a group of black people and it yells out the N-word to them. And I am like, oh my gosh, we are going to die, because in my mind, everyone in Texas had guns. And I thought we were going to be in the midst of a shootout on our first,
and someone planned
our
for you
first
to
seconds
see the
in Austin.
the worst epitome
Yes.
of it upon your arrival.
I know. And I was like, what is this about? I want to get out of here. That's what I felt like. I want to get out of here.
So I'm still, I'm still in this U-Haul truck,
Mm-hmm.
and we've parked, and you're still in the truck, and you're going to leave that truck in the pouring rain. You're going to come over and you're going to sit in the cab of the U-Haul
Yes.
with me, because we can't go out onto the parking lot and look around. Oh, all right, high five, we made it.
We did it. Yeah.
I remember driving in and realizing that we did not plan beyond this moment at all. And you get in the truck, and I'm just remembering this now, but earlier when the neck thing happened, the question was, what now?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we literally said that in that U-Haul is, what now?
Yeah.
We didn't even know what our surroundings looked like because of the rain and because of the vague kind of area.
Right.
that we were
Yeah, it
in.
was. You couldn't really get a good idea at all of what what area we were in, what it looked like, what the buildings were like, because it was kind of like a hazy, foggy, drizzly, dreary rain.
Right.
Yeah.
And I sort of felt a slave to our plan, which was inadequate. An inadequate plan is this. We planned this. we planned ourselves into this position, But then we were forced to, what now?
Right.
Do we sleep?
Yeah, I think I was mad at you a little bit, because that was where my
incapabilities.
frustration went towards that, was because, oh my gosh, we have no plan beyond this. I am so mad at Kevin for that. I think that's where and then I'm going to break down. I want to sleep in a hotel. So
we go to a hotel.
Yeah.
I think we just found
the one
closest
that was
one.
probably up the exit.
No cell phones.
No.
You can't look it up. You go find a hotel,
Right.
and then you walk in, and then you ask them a question, and then you get into a hotel. And then I remember that we experienced, our plan was then, okay, we got to have a plan. We're going to survey this area. We're going to drive around and look at things. You can't, we were not looking things up on a computer and doing a Google search. That wasn't anything that we could do. And so we were going to physically drive around and at some point get an Austin physical map that you can unfold and go, well, how about right here? Not knowing what's actually
Really
why
anything
you would
about
even pick
the area.
that spot.
Yeah.
But I remember maybe it was just 2 days of total distress and discouragement with no answers, and realizing our reconning and searching is also not adequate.
Right. Well, so the one thing I do remember, though, and even though we did feel like that after, is when we woke up in the morning, the sun was shining. And I remember going outside of the hotel room to look around and see what it looked like with the sun out. And I mean, I couldn't really distinguish. I didn't know where we were. I didn't know. It looked like a, kind of a center, like cement city where we were particularly. But I was so thankful for the sun. I was so thankful for the sun. And I just remember being really grateful for that. And that gave a little bit of inspiration for the day. But we ended up getting in the car and we picked an area that we were going to drive around and look for apartments. And man, I remember it was expensive and the traffic was horrible. And trying to figure out even when we drove, of course we had maps, so we knew we were in the south part of Austin, but we'd stop at different apartment complexes to look and didn't even know what it was close to. So we would get done and then we'd drive around the area, but mostly it was just kind of being discouraged with what we were finding and the areas that didn't seem quite right or we couldn't afford it, so.
I remember I think it was the second full day of being real discouraged about what we had not found. And in the evenings, I remember being in a hotel room and being like, the one place I want to live right now is on my knees. And it wasn't like, if I go to my knees, then I'll be, holy or properly appealing to God. It was like, I felt broken to my knees. And it didn't feel scary. I think it was scary, but it was a different form. It was like, you are on your own, and you don't have any answers. And Father Time was going tick, 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 and your hourglass is running out.
Yeah.
And you haven't got any kind of gear at all. I mean, in the scheme of things, it's just 2 days in, right? But it's like, no, every 6 hours counts.
That's what it felt like. And every time we would not like something or, really, I wasn't really wanting to admit it, but I really didn't like Austin very much. I didn't like the feel of it. But I was afraid to admit that too, because we had made this decision to go there. So you're going to kind of like put up
fasting
right.
a break so holy.
But you're right. I remember that evening in the hotel room where we just prayed, knowing that
pled.
we just needed,
I remember pleading.
Yeah. Telling God that we needed his help to show us.
Who we ought to be.
Yeah. But I feel like that was it was a moment that was real, because for me anyway, because I expressed like insecurity and the fear and
I didn't
just not knowing what to do.
I didn't even think about this, but you said you woke up the next morning after the first one and there was that sun. And I remember we were there in Central Austin, the hotel. I think it was a second night, and I woke up in the next morning and I had a kind of sun experience, and I just had these words in my mind, and it was like, drive north.
Yeah. And you kept saying that. Well, after kind of that day, we were heading back, we were like kind of discouraged, and that was the thing that you said. You're like, we need to go north, and you just stated it. And I was like, north? I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know, are we going an hour north? Are we going 5 minutes north? I was like, how do we know what north? How do we know how far north we're supposed to go? And you were like, we're going to go north. And I was like,
I didn't have the memory of that until just as we're talking through this.
Yeah.
That was...
You were insistent on it. Yeah.
So we got in the vehicles and we drove north. And we left the skirts of Austin, past Pflugerville, into Round Rock.
Right, which, as we were driving north on 35, it was like, this is beautiful. Like, all of a sudden, you could see space. You could see the countryside, even. At that point, it's probably not even countryside anymore, but at that point, you could see space in between things, and you're like, oh.
Right. And we drove around and we saw that there were a lot of new apartment complexes that were put up, and there was some new build there. And again, it didn't turn out that we were finding anything, but there was something different. It was like, we're definitely going to look around here in this town called Round Rock.
Right.
And see what we can find.
All I know is I remember checking into the hotel that we stayed at, because I think it was relatively new, because like you said, there was a lot of new building stuff going on. And it was affordable for us, and it was really nice. And I remember walking into that room, and it had a big window, and it wasn't super musty like the other hotel room, and it was like this is where we start afresh. This is it. This is where it begins. Even though it had begun already, but you know what I mean. I felt like, okay, this is place number 2 that we are gonna go and do the things we need to do.
We didn't find answers that day, but I remember that night was another distressful night, and I was on my knees, and I was, pleading to the invisible God who would hear stuff like that, do what you can do, because I don't know what I'm doing here. And thinking that the next day was going to be filled with me not knowing what to do in order to catch gear. So that was another distressful night. And then the morning, we were lying in bed, and the phone to our hotel room rings.
Right.
And we had slept in, I think it was like 9 a.m. or something. And I answered the phone, and it's a guy asking for Mark. Is this Mark? No, this is not Mark. He's like, oh, sorry. I think this is a hotel, right? I think Mark was staying here last night. We have an apartment, and I was, going to relay our apartment deal that we've got for him. And I was like, well, tell me more. And he says, well, I mean, we're opening up, was it Palm Valley?
Yeah, and he explained to you that because they were brand new and newly opening, that they had this deal where you got 2 months free rent and upfront, and they also threw in a washer and dryer for you,
right?
For free.
If you
sign a lease,
sign a 1-year lease.
Yeah.
1 or 2 year lease. I don't remember.
I think it was 2. It was a 2-year lease. Yeah.
Well, is that open for us too?
Yeah, we're like, we're looking for an apartment.
And, I think back on it, and I'm like, did these guys just know that all the people looking for apartments are living, for the night in these hotels? I mean, not everybody in the hotel could be in that same situation, and eventually they're going to be shut down for just cold calling these things. I think he was looking for Mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, the timing was just, 2 months free.
I know.
I mean, we could use our 2 months that we have to survive to buy our groceries.
Yeah, that was...
to start our booming painting business that we know nothing about.
I think one of the discouraging things going to Round Rock too was, of course, we had no idea where anything was really. We had started talking about a plan. We I think one of the things we could not stay in a hotel another day. We needed to find a place to live.
The next night needed to be free.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, think of how close we were to being homeless.
Yeah.
We're that pinch.
To actually sleeping in our car.
That's true. We were just fine. We had plenty of vehicles.
We would have survived.
We had 3 vehicles. 2 for real and 1 for rent.
But...
so we went and checked it out.
Yeah, and
it was
they
paradise.
were so nice.
And they're like, you're going to give us 2 months free? And we went and looked at our spot, and it wasn't, a money pit in disguise. It was an
brand
amazing complex. Swimming pool, hot tub.
Well, and also the unit they had for us, they're like, well, let us show you what we have. And they took us to the apartment with the lanai or patio that looked out over Brushy Creek. And I was like,
where Mexican basketball
was in the world.
Right.
And it was like, God just was like, not only am I going to have someone call you about this apartment, but you're going to get a view to boot. with the water running, just this peaceful. It was peaceful. It was like
What if when you
a sanctuary.
What if when you fast and you pray, what you are targeting is not up to you? What if when you're fasting and praying, that what is targeted is something that you know nothing about?
Yeah.
What if we were fasting and praying for that? And there's no way for us to know that until 25 years later.
Well, yeah.
We're sitting around some microphones recounting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that was, it was an encouragement that was needed, because of how unanchored and how untethered it was to just be not attached to anything.
Yeah, an encouragement in one sense, but I mean just the provision.
Yeah, provision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now we have 2 months.
Right.
And we've got the remaining monies to start this thing that's going to sustain us, that we know nothing about, the business.
Right. But also, so I worked at the Gap in Columbus, and my manager said that she would reach out to the manager in Austin at the Arboretum. And I wasn't sure if she was going to do that or not, because she didn't do it when I was still working there. But I remember once we got settled and kind of made some more plans about what we were going to do, I remember calling her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, your manager called me, and if you want to come in and meet us, and then we can see, if you want a job there." So that was another thing, is I didn't know how hard that was going to be to transition, if they'd even know who I was or whatever. But she was actually expecting my call. Wow. So I was able to start work not too long after we moved there at the Gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started looking up, back in the day you went and you got a newspaper and you found out things that were being, sold, that were used. And I had to buy, I didn't have any work, but I knew I needed ladders, and I knew I needed a couple of good paintbrushes made by Purdy.
Right.
And I needed a paint sprayer, electric one of those expensive, high quality paint sprayers. And I knew that I needed a storage unit. And so I was searching for all these things and kind of accumulating them and putting them in a storage space. And I do remember that getting a storage unit was a big step. It's like, okay, we just bought into a monthly rental. I think it was a year requirement into it. And I'm buying this stuff, but I have to have an actual clientele. We didn't know anybody there. It's not like we called up our friends.
Right.
And we asked for references. It's not like anybody in the entire world there knew who we were. And we're going to start a business.
Yeah. This is because
there was nobody there.
Yeah.
That we knew.
Right. Yeah. And I'm remembering in my mind that I know that you went then to the Round Rock Sherwin-Williams there,
yep.
And you started to frequent it and got to know the guys that worked there. And you went there and gave him your card, and he began giving people who would come in for recommended painters, he started giving them people your card. Right. Now that was a little bit after you got your first couple jobs, but I remember that was a really cool thing because
they had a list of a stack of cards that they would recommend. People came in, they said, who's your top guy, and who's your cheapest, least expensive, and of course we were an unknown quantity, but I did make an early connection and early impression and friendship with those guys. And I went in and I said, I'm making a sign. And I don't know why I cherish this sign. Remember, I kept it for like a decade after we were done with this business. It was a house painting sign that you just put in the yard, and it said Schmidt's Painting.
Yeah, we had that for a long time.
A logo, it had like a combination of an S and a P. It's silly. Yep. But it was Schmidt's Painting, and there it had my phone number. Boom, boom, boom. And it was just 7 numbers. Wasn't it just 7 numbers?
Yep.
Didn't have an area code? Because back then you didn't.
No, I think it did have an area code.
Did it have an area code?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, phone number, and then it said quality paints and materials, insured and guaranteed. And I think I learned that that's not what everyone was doing. People were not buying the top end paints for their jobs all the time. That was part of making some extra revenue. Yeah. And they also weren't getting insured and guaranteeing their stuff. And I just thought that's naturally what you probably ought to do. Maybe if I had done more research, I wouldn't have done it. But my sign was, and so Sherwin-Williams was like, this guy's going to buy the best materials always from us. And so that ended up, later on, as time went on, really paying off.
Yeah.
But we put up the signs when, we had jobs. But at first we had no work. And it was all about knocking on doors.
Yes.
And that was hard. It was very hard. Because it's knock, knock, knock. And then it's no. And go away and,
ignore.
Call the cops. Or, right. And it's rejection after rejection. And that was the mode that I had gotten into the truck in Columbus. I'd gotten into that. I was in that mode when I got into our moving vehicle to roll into Austin. And now I was going door to door looking for people to
asking for people to reject you.
Right, looking for some more rejection.
Yeah.
And you know what I did? I knocked on the next door. And then I knocked on the next door, no. And I knocked on the next one, and it was no. Rejected. No. Rejected. No. Rejected. And that was my lot. And I did it the next day, and I did it the next day, and I did it the next day, and I just kept on doing it.
You did. You did not stop. You did not stop. And I remember when you would go out, I would pray really hard. Please let someone say yes today. Please let someone say yes today. For you and your, for your encouragement, but also, because we needed somebody to say yes.
And then somebody said, can you replace the siding? Some siding sheets on a house? And can you replace the wood trim around my windows? And that was another moment where I was really in touch with the fact that I did not know how to do things. And I felt like growing up I didn't learn how to do things, work with wood, and I didn't know how to do things, but that was a sense that was the obstacle. The person asked me, do you know how to replace, the siding on my house? And I said, yes.
Right.
I said, yes. And do you remember what I did?
You replaced the siding on their house?
Yeah, but I went and I got a sheet, and I messed it up. And then I went and I got another sheet, and I messed it up.
Oh.
And I went and I got a third sheet. The way I do it now.
Yeah.
And I got it right. And it cost me. And I started doing the boards of trim around the windows that had rotted out on this house. And I went through more wood than I should have. And I finished that thing. And it looked good, and it was right, and it was properly caulked and sealed, and they never saw me not doing it right. They only saw the finished product. And they loved it. And what I was really surprised at was that I got paid.
Right.
And, you know, the Sherwin-Williams guys, they were like, the painters around here, they get paid about 4 out of 5 times on a job, if you're lucky. You know, that's kind of the rate. They have a lot of trouble with getting paid. And I was 1 for 1.
Right.
And I got paid for that job. And I could have made more money than I did, but I made positive amount of money. And I think it probably helped us for half a week or a week.
Yeah.
And
that was exciting. And then I remember the other job that you had was painting. Was it a metal, like iron banister?
Right.
You had to like sand off the rust and then repaint it. And I remember I actually came with you and I helped you. I helped you do that job, and the people that lived there seemed really surprised when you introduced me and I was your wife, and they were like, "What?" Like, I don't know how many. Right, I don't know how many people take their wife with them to help them do painting, but I remember helping you with that job. But I think that was probably one of the only jobs I helped you. I helped you paint.
Yeah.
The painting was mostly you.
And the rest is history. There's a whole story after this that has to stand on its own. But we became successful in what we were doing in that area. We were put at the top of the reputation of the painters. We were always the first and top. Crew handed out by the stores. We stopped advertising.
Right.
And everything was word of mouth. And that would take a while to get to. But boy, we were at pretty much 0 and scraping by and being all about not knowing at all what we were doing.
Just putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. But the other thing I was going to say, though, is that in all of your time of painting, did you ever not get paid for a job?
In the years that we painted, there was never a single job that I didn't get paid for.
Yeah.
Not a single one. No,
Yeah.
it was unheard of. And it's not even about how good of a painter, the odds, you know, were also had to be in our favor. That's rolling into Austin.
Rolling into Austin.
Whew, that was tough for me to go through. That's good. I like this whole idea of therapy in the vault.
Yeah.
Therapy in the vault.
Yep. That is a good one.
Rolling into Austin.
So many lessons in that story.
And I think there's a story in between this one and the one that we did titled Mexican Basketball. And that is the house in Round Rock.
Right.
Is our life there that really shaped and transformed in many ways our spirit, which leads to what we are today. Well,
Cool.
thanks for recounting that with me, my dear wife, my partner in crime.
You know what? I would do it again with you over and over.
Anyhow, rolling into Austin. Catch you guys next time on Let's Just Go. All right,
See you
peace.
later. Bye.
You got this.